Kia ora, Matapelo here, bringing you the weather forecast today on Thursday, the 31st of August. It was a bit of a foggy start to the day out in the northern and central parts of the North Island. That has now cleared away, leaving mostly settled weather conditions for the bulk of the country. And that was all due to a high pressure system that has had its hold over us for most of this week. And actually going forward, that high pressure system could be good news for those of you looking to get out to view the supermoon later this evening. So looking at those viewing conditions for tonight, we see that the eastern parts of the country should have clear, unimpeded views of the moon. The west, a bit of a different story, a little bit more cloud out there. Even Nelson should be pretty good for those viewing conditions tonight. Out in the North Island, a similar story. The eastern parts, nice and clear. Out in the west, a little bit more cloud, but there should be enough gaps within that cloud to see the moon tonight. Then heading forward into the overnight period, we see that ridge of high pressure system still holding on to most of the country. But what's happening down here is a frontal system that is making its way towards the country. And that does bring some rainy conditions, especially for that southern Fiordland area. Looking at the temperatures overnight, it is still going to be fairly clear for most places, especially central and eastern parts. So we do have another possibility of some foggy conditions overnight and possible frosts in those inland areas and as well as the eastern areas in the overnight period. Then looking ahead to tomorrow, again, it is about that ridge in the north and that front in the south. That ridge bringing mostly settled weather conditions, maybe 1 or 2 showers out in the west of the North Island. But down here in the far south, that front does bring that rainy conditions for that southwestern Fiordland area. So with that, we have a warning for heavy rain for southern Fiordland, and that is for George Sound and southwards, where we could see accumulations in the region of 140 to 180 millimeters of rain within that 24 hours. Do keep an eye on metservice.com if you are planning on heading out in that area. But now, zooming into the North Island, tomorrow morning we could see another misty, maybe foggy start to the day up there in the north and central areas. That doesn't last for too long though. Things clear out quite nicely, leaving mostly settled weather conditions for the bulk of the island. Out in the west, a little bit of showers every now and then, but nothing too bad. But the main thing we're looking out on over the North Island is what's happening here in the north. A little bit of showers starting to come through as the day goes on. And by the end of the day, we could see that turning into rain for the far northern regions. Looking at the temperatures, nice and warm, well, nice and average for this time of year. It is the start of spring tomorrow, meteorological spring. So that is seen in the temperatures in the mid-teens and even a little bit warmer out here in the east. Gisborne, that maximum of 19 degrees, could be its warmest temperature ever since June, if you can remember that far back. Looking at the overnight temperatures into Saturday, still some pockets of frosts possible, but up here in the north, those minimum temperatures much warmer due to that cloud as it's starting to drift southwards. Over in the South Island, however, it is this clear east-west split in terms of the weather. Out in the west, we've got those cloudy conditions, some showers down the west coast, and even that rain due to that frontal system that's bringing potential heavy rain for southern Fiordland. Some of that rain could reach into the Southland and Clutha regions, but out here in the east, a much clearer story that we're expecting. Some possible high cloud drifting through, but mostly fine conditions for those areas. And that translates into the temperatures as well. We see these temperatures out in the east in the mid to high teens, places like Christchurch and Blenheim up there at a maximum of around 18 degrees. The overnight period into Saturday morning, however, we see these temperatures still on the low side, not as low as what we've had this week, but still the potential for frosts for those eastern and inland areas. Then looking ahead into the weekend, we turn our attention to what's happening up north. We are seeing a low pressure system drifting down towards the northern parts of the country. It's looking like it'll possibly bring some rainy conditions for those northern parts and possible strong winds as well. So we're looking at places like Northland, Auckland, the Coromandel Peninsula for that potential of rain. That continues into Sunday, and as that low pressure system starts to drift southwards, it also spreads some of that rain to the eastern places. So places like Tairafiti, Gisborne, and the ranges of Hawke's Bay could see some of that rain on Sunday. still a little bit far out, but definitely make sure to keep an eye on medservice.com.